Good evening, guys, and welcome to the Saturday night edition, Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. Hope everyone is doing well. And it looks like Jen is here this evening, watching from her camper, as she says. So make sure you give a big smash of that like button so we can get this out to as many people as possible and make Jen happy. And of course, as our trusty mod, Brett Boyle, says, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure that you are subscribed, because we all know that people are being unsubscribed all the time. And of course, make sure that you share the stream. If you share this with one person, imagine what a difference that could make in the growth of the channel. Without question, it is an organic process that we are growing. And of course, right now we are sitting just under 53,800 subscribers. So every day we are growing little by little. Yes, Henry Kajawa, Chickamauga is completely overrun with Trumpers. And guess what? They're nice people. They're really sweet people, great people, believe me. But that's kind of the way things are in certain parts of the country. You know, my personal experience being in Red America, where I live, is they're all very welcoming. Just don't try to change them. That's their one rule. As they would say, don't bring your Yankee liberal way of life here and think you're going to change us. That's not going to happen. But they are very forgiving and accommodating, and they really enjoy having people come and visit, and their hospitality is second to none. At least that's been my experience. I don't know what you guys have gone through, if you have in that regard in terms of experience, but we are obviously very grateful for everyone who is here. And as Holly Horn has pointed out, Rothbone and Status Quo are running right now. So we're definitely up against it competition-wise, but we're going to be on a little bit later than they are. So hopefully everybody will find their way over soon enough. I don't want to ruin everyone's night in terms of the different stories that we are going to cover, because there are certainly ones that are very important that we are obviously going to want to get to. So we have a few different places that we can start this evening. And for anybody who has obviously followed our clips, you know that we've got a number of things that we have cooking at the moment. But I want to start with this, yet another example of what happens when you cross the Zionist state. And Colin, if you could grab the information that I sent to you regarding Huda Kattan. Look, I'm obviously not in the cosmetics world, although I try to take care of myself as best I can. For those that are not familiar with Huda Kattan, this lady is an extremely very successful, tremendously successful cosmetics brand leader. Her company is called Huda Beauty. It is, at this point, I think it's a multi-billion-dollar valued company. And she is worth about $500 million based on the success that she has had, which is substantial to say the least. And so she decided to make a TikTok video that I cannot show you because it's been brought down. But she is somebody who, as an Iraqi American, built a ground up business and has always been on the side of justice, it would appear. And as it turns out, in November of 2023, so within a matter of weeks after the attacks and the genocide had commenced, Huda donated $1 million to Doctors Without Borders and another organization that I believe is Free Gaza, or I believe that was the name. It may be in the article and I could check that. So right off the bat, she showed where her loyalties lie, on the side of justice, without hesitation. Got out there, out in front, was supporting the cause. And so recently she did a TikTok video in which she espoused an opinion that I think is fairly sound, maybe not 100% sound, but an opinion nonetheless that basically varied along the lines of Israel has more or less been responsible for all global wars of the 20th century and now the 21st century. Now, do I think that that is accurate? Probably not all across the board. However, do I think that she bears... But I think Israel bears a certain level of responsibility as a result of such activity. Yes, I do. And so I'm completely on board with the idea that we must do anything and everything within our capacity to break ties with them. But as it turns out, and this should come as no surprise to anybody, that good old Israel lobby front group, Stop Anti-Semitism, although it should just be Increase Anti-Semitism, because that's really what they want, and that is essentially what ends up happening. They decided that they were going to do everything in their power to make an example of Huda Kattan, no matter how powerful she is, no matter how successful she is, no matter how much of a financial swoon her business is for millions of people. Like I said, she has 57 million followers on Instagram alone. So they got to work and they decided they were going to put maximum pressure on one of her biggest distributors, and that, of course, is Sephora. And it turns out that they decided to cave. Sephora cuts ties with Huda Kattan, cites viral anti-Semitic video from TikTok. Yes, totally anti-Semitic. Anything that criticizes Israel is deemed anti-Semitic, but in reality, it's just anti-Jewish because, let's face it, the overwhelming majority of people who are, we'll say, from that region are Semitic, and they're not Israeli. Most Israelis are of European descent. So the whole concept of saying that you're anti-Semitic is kind of moot. But nevertheless, from the Jerusalem Post, so you're really getting it from the heart of the people who support the Israel cause. But nevertheless, Sephora cuts ties with Huda Kattan. Kattan posted a video in July promoting an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory blaming Israel for nearly every major catastrophe of the last century to her 1.7 million TikTok followers. Hey, no arguments so far. Kind of getting the gist of where she's at. Sephora decides to cut ties with the Iraqi-American entrepreneur Huda Kattan, creator of the cosmetics brand Huda, after she posted a series of after she posted a series of videos on TikTok in July. The video posted by Kattan promoted an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory blaming Jews. She didn't. She blamed Israel. But we know what the Jerusalem Post will do. And for nearly every major catastrophe of the last century, including both world wars and the 9/11 attacks, to her followers. Well, do I think there is some truth that Israel has had a hand in a lot of conflicts over the last century plus? Yes, I do. And I would imagine a lot of you guys probably do as well. Now, I'm not going to say that Israel was responsible for the two world wars because Israel wasn't a state yet. But do I think that there is direct correlation between the Zionist cause and what ultimately happened in Europe over the course of the first half of the 20th century? Yeah, I do think there is ties there. Do I think that there are ties regarding what ultimately ended up happening going to war in Southeast Asia? Hey, we know for a fact that Israel attacked the USS Liberty in 1967, just as the Vietnam War was kicking into high gear. Actually, it was already in high gear at that point, but obviously they wanted to expand it because it was about eliminating communism, as they wanted us to believe. But we certainly know that this was only the beginning. And so as a result, she puts these messages out there, and the watchdog group, the Israel lobby front group, Stop Anti-Semitism, quickly demanded Sephora cut ties with her brand while TikTok removed the video for violating platform rules. You know, the rules that they just make up as they go along. So Sephora, owned by luxury conglomerate LVMH, not familiar with them, initially tried to buy time, issuing a cautious statement that said it was reviewing the situation in partnership with the brand. However, as public pressure mounted, Colin, what'd you do to me? Nope, hold on. Scroll down. All right. There we are. However, as public pressure mounted, the company made a final decision. It removed Huda Beauty from its prestigious Experts campaign. Kattan built her brand from the ground up. Born in the U.S. to Iraqi parents, she launched Huda Beauty in 2013, growing it into one of the world's most successful cosmetic companies. It is sold not only at Sephora, but also at major retailers such as Harrods and Nikea in India. Nika, excuse me. In North America, however, Huda Beauty relies almost entirely on exclusive distribution through Sephora. If Sephora cuts ties completely, she could lose her most important market. Stop Anti-Semitism has already warned that being dropped from the campaign is only a significant first step. So if you think that they're done just coming after her because she decided to speak out against Israel to her massive following, oh no. They're going to make an example of her. Until Sephora fully severs ties, the group says it will call for a boycott of the retailer. Well, we could certainly make quite a few jokes about the type of women that like to butter up their face with a lot of makeup, but I digress. Kattan eventually tried to do damage control. She posted a lengthy video claiming her words had been misinterpreted and that her original clip was criticism of Israel policy, not of Jews and Judaism. Hey, she doesn't even have to backtrack because I guarantee you that that's what it was. It had nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It had everything to do with the criticism of the state of Israel. She said she deleted it herself after realizing the content was distorted and blamed critics for running a smear campaign. Hey, that's what the Zion-Nazis do. So now you see exactly what happens when you cross their path. And even if Sephora stands to lose tens of millions of dollars in revenue as a result of kicking Huda Beauty off of their line, they are not going to cross Israel. And that is essentially where we stand today, guys. We are still stuck in a conundrum of how do we deal with this genocidal, psychopathic state that has their hooks in almost every corner of our economy. On a daily basis, you will find that there are new ways for them to take over our local, state, and federal government, and in this case, the private sector as well. And so what I recommend to each and every one of you that is watching this live stream, to everyone who is going to see this clip when we drop it, I would highly recommend that if you must purchase cosmetic supplies, please strongly consider not doing it any longer at Sephora. If they think the wrath of the Zion-Nazis is scary, how about the wrath of everyone who isn't a Zion-Nazi? Because as far as I can tell, there's probably a lot more that are not, that do shop at Sephora. And maybe now they'll find out that their fear of Israel and the Zionist lobby is not nearly as scary and as dangerous to their brand as one would think. And so I, again, would implore everyone that if you are a partaker in any type of beauty supply, take it elsewhere away from Sephora. Now, again, I don't know where I would recommend that you go that isn't Sephora. Your guess is as good as mine. I am not picky when it comes to this type of stuff. I think any place that is not on board, yes, it is huge in New York. It's huge in a lot of places. And so in the end, I would venture that this is not going to be easy, but I would implore people to do just that. Yes, Nordstrom is a distributor, distributes cosmetic supplies. So I believe that would be okay. Ulta, I think, would be one. Throw them all out there, whatever you guys have, look into all of these names and see if they are acceptable and that they are not on board. Mary Kay, yes, it's big in Texas. Again, their bark is much worse than their bite. Remember, we have the numbers. They don't. And that's probably worth quite a bit. Jen was mentioning to me earlier that she frequents Sephora. Not anymore. Again, I don't not want people to shop at Sephora. I just want Sephora to stop doing business with Israel and stop being afraid to break away from them or thinking that if you criticize them, that they really have the type of power to convince people to stop shopping there. Again, their support is a mile wide and it's an inch thick. That's it. Not deep at all. They project strength and they have a lot of money and influence for sure. But do they really have the numbers? Do Zionists truly have the numbers to dent the market share of what Sephora sells nationwide and worldwide? I doubt it. And considering how most people feel about the state of Israel at this point, to me, again, it's the Wizard of Oz. The big, powerful wizard is just a small man standing behind a curtain. And that's the state of Israel. That's what they have become. So please, if you must, do not ever shop at Sephora again until they get their mind right. Because that's what needs to happen. They need to get their mind right. And as it stands, for a lot of other people, their mind is not getting right. How do we know? Because our good friend Medea Benjamin is still walking around Capitol Hill's 2-mile surrounding perimeter of our nation's capital and asking our representatives, where do they stand on the genocidal state of Israel and what they're doing to children?
I'm going to ask members of Congress to send a message to the hungry children of Gaza. Let's hear what they have to say.
Might you have a message to send to the hungry children of Gaza?
No, I don't right now. I'm focusing on something.
I know, but this is urgent.
Ma'am,
people are
don't
starving. Children are starving.
They are, and that's too bad.
Yes, they are, and that's too bad. Well, look, I don't know who this bougie sister is, but maybe somebody in the chat could let us know. Yes, they are, and that's too bad. And as far as I'm concerned, if money was of no object, I would plaster that message all over her district and let every single person who votes for her, every single person who lives there, let them know that their representative is a cuck for the state of Israel and thinks that it's perfectly acceptable to just slaughter children. Again, it's unfortunate, but I've got a fancy career that I got to worry about, and I am just not going to put it in harm's way. And that's basically what she needs to say. My career is more important than dead brown babies. That's it. Pretty simple. She's not the only one.
No, listen.
No message to them?
Congressman, a quick word to the hungry children of Gaza. Might you have a word to say to them, Congressman? Please, you know, children are starving in Gaza. Could you say something to them? That's your message to the children of Gaza, is silence? Absolute silence. Congressman, could you send a message to the hungry children of Gaza?
Send a message to them?
Yes.
Send a message to the terrorists in Gaza that they need to quit their
But no, a message
terrorist
to the
activities.
children. I'm talking about the children who are not responsible for anything. Can you just send them a message?
You need to talk to the people who are responsible, which are
The state of Israel. And the terrorists are Israelis. Remember, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. And of course, the people that she's talking to are bought and paid for by corporate special interests. That, more than any other reason, is why they are talking this way, because they have no leg to stand on. Zero.
the terrorists in Gaza.
Children are starving, and I wonder if you have anything to say to them.
Yeah, they need to convince the terrorists to quit being terrorists.
The children, what if they're 2 years old? They're starving, they're dying of starvation. That doesn't concern you?
It does concern me, but my career concerns me a hell of a lot more. And it pays well, and I've got lots of connections that I don't want to ruin. And if I speak out on the side of justice, I'm going to be shit out of luck. And I have no other way to live such a comfortable, luxurious life than to be a corporate whore for the corporate special interest establishment of the United States and Israel. Now, he's not going to say that, but I'm speaking on his behalf.
Does it concern you?
Yes.
Are you over there giving them aid?
I can't get in because Israel won't allow us. So you have nothing to say to those children.
Well, terrorists are bad.
Shame on you. Congressman, do you have a message for the children of Gaza?
We missed you so much. It's great to see you.
Do you have a message for the hungry children of Gaza?
Do you know my name at all yet?
It doesn't matter. I'm asking.
Do you know who I am? Do you know my name? Do you know that I am a federally elected whore of the United States of America? And you should at least know my name. So that way you can remember when the corporate special interest donors are shouting it from the rooftops. Hey, whore. Well, that's what he is. He doesn't need a name.
Random members, do you have a message to the children of Gaza?
Have a great day. Thank you.
I wonder if you'd have a message to the children of Gaza.
I wonder if you're ever going to disclose who pays you year after year to be here.
Well, you're paid by AIPAC, but I'm paid by nobody, actually.
Ooh, and I bet you when he heard that, that really stung very deep right in his heartless heart. But let me assure you, when they hear things like that, They want to respond in an aggressive way, but to his, again, I don't want to give any credit. He clearly knew that was something that probably ticked him off, probably wanted to say something back. But what can you deny? He is a whore, a big fucking whore of the worst kind.
But do you have a message for the children of Gaza who are hungry? No message to the hungry children of Gaza? Congressman, a message?
Already.
I know, but I didn't get a satisfactory answer.
I didn't think it was a satisfactory question.
It's
Whether or not you care about the children who are being starved to death? No. Smash that like button, guys. I think Jen's right. That's probably his real name. He just doesn't say it publicly because he may get censored. Let's keep that in mind. And make sure to smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you share the stream. We're already at 165 live viewers despite our competition. But we want to get over that 200 mark as soon as possible. Let's keep moving on up, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not a legitimate question to ask you to send a message to the starving children of Gaza? Is it because of all the money AIPAC gives you? I'm going to ask members of Congress.
I just want people to see his face. Let's try it again.
Is it because of all the money AIPAC gives you?
Yeah, it is because of the money that AIPAC gives him. What's amazing about Medea and her organization, even though people know that she is on the left in politics, they know she's legit. The people who are not part of the corporate establishment know that she is legit, whether you agree with her politically or not. They know that she is the real deal, that she is going to fight on the side of justice all day, every day. And these sociopathic narcissists have never, ever had to face down what they have done to this country on behalf of corporate power. Ever. So for them to be inconvenienced, which is ostensibly what's happening here, it drives them insane. The second that she shows up, they're like, oh, I got to deal with this freaking bitch again. She don't want to leave me alone. She just doesn't understand how corporate America works and what it means to be successful in this country. She's just a hippy dippy from South Florida. What the hell does she know? No, she at least can lay her head down at night and know that she's doing right by humanity. And these guys, I hope it eats them alive inside every single day of their life. I hope that they have sleepless nights. And frankly, I don't care if they get stress-induced sickness that ultimately takes them from this earth. How one can live with themselves, knowing what they're involved in, I don't know what to tell you. And it's going to hurt me to have to do this next segment. But it's going to have to be done. Cheers to Medea Benjamin, now and always. And fuck every last one of those stupid sons of bitches that have sold out this country for corporate special interests and now is on full display in the midst of a genocide that, because they are completely bought and paid for, can't speak on. And if they did, would be the end of their career as they know it. And that is more important than millions of innocent lives being mass murdered. I didn't start this, but I will finish it. For those of you who have followed our channel from the multiple growth points that we've had to where we are today, those of you who have been here know that we have usually held Matt Taibbi in pretty high regard. He's been a guest multiple times. He is very good at what he does. I do not fault him for having different political opinions. However, he did decide to put out this statement, which I think would probably piss off quite a few people. Matt Taibbi decided, unprovoked, to make a post saying, and I quote, on CBS, on Bari Weiss, CBS, and legacy media tears, the jealous losers complaining about Weiss's CBS deals are like spaniels who not only expect their master to feed them, but to cut the canned food in bits. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I messaged Matt and I asked him if he wanted to come on and talk about this. Let's just say he did respond, and let's just say not only is he not interested in talking about this subject, but he has no interest whatsoever in talking about Israel. Well, I'm sorry, Sonny Jim, but you just entered yourself into the fray. We asked you to come on. You said no, so now I have to do this without you being here to defend yourself. But I'm not really sure there is anything you can do to defend it. Colin, can you click the link, please? Bari Weiss has been making the world worse for a long time. If we lived in a less terrible time and place, from the nation's subtle, vile grifters are taking over establishment media. Hey, I don't see anything wrong with that so far. Weiss would be dismissed as a crank and a bigot and never heard from again. Remember, the biggest issue I had with Bari Weiss goes back several years, where she completely disrespected and threw under the bus an actual servant of the country in Tulsi Gabbard. Now, as I've said, you don't have to agree with Tulsi's politics, and Lord knows she's playing them for all they're worth, but she has served this country honorably as a medic in war zones. And you want to talk about, it's always the people that have never served this country that always have something really fucking critical to say about our service members who actually have courage. I don't know what it is. I think it's a lack of it. It's a sense of inadequacy that certain people feel. And Bari Weiss is certainly one of the very worst. And as this continues, but we live in the waking nightmare that in the US in 2025, so instead of Weiss is being rewarded with a prize that even she must think is kind of wild. That prize, CBS News. The person handing this gift to Weiss is David Ellison, the billionaire Nepo baby who just merged CBS News parent company Paramount with his company, Skydance Media. Ellison, Puck's Dylan Byers reported on Wednesday, is paying somewhere between $100 million and $200 million to buy the free press and install Weiss somewhere at the top of the network. Of course, the nation calls Weiss a grifter. She is, Matt. She certainly is, because that's how they view a process once known in the industry as making money. Making money for what? What did she do to deserve $1 million, much less $200 million? Since the icon of irrevocable media revenue loss was profitable in, well, never, it naturally has a lot to say about the wisdom of paying millions to the controversial The Free Press editor. They weren't alone recapping protests from the peanut gallery. Again, two wrongs don't make a right. No one is here cheering on CBS News like they are doing something great, that they know how to run a news organization, because again, they are run hook, line, and sinker by corporate special interests, and the fact that the biggest contributor in the world to the IDF's Nepo baby son is using the family fortune to purchase CBS News and put Bari Weiss in charge. What point are you trying to make, Matt Taibbi? You're not making one. No one is jealous of Bari Weiss. People are sick of this broken system, of which she has benefited greatly because, as far as I can tell, she's an agent of the Mossad and works directly, just as Epstein did, to run these clandestine operations, including running a media conglomerate that does nothing but glorified coverage of the state of Israel. That is all they do. It's not like they have a substantial bandwidth. It's not like they got a lot of views and a lot of subscribers, but they get a shitload of corporate money from the Zionist class. And that is exactly why the Free Press has any and I mean any traction. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I am subscribed to the Free Press newsletter. So I get their information all the time and I see the stories that they put out there. And I can assure you, it is an absolute full-blown rag for the state of Israel. That is what they are, period. And the idea that Taibbi is not only defending this, but shitting on people that go after her? Who the hell is paying you, brother? Wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about this, but Matt Taibbi doesn't want to talk about Israel. Well, guess what? You are talking about it in your very not so subtle way. And again, I don't want to accuse you of being on the take, but you're making it very hard for me not to, and probably everybody else. I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt to let you have your say. And if you wanted to defend her, I'm sure you had your reasons. Clearly, whatever they are ones that we are not going to agree with. And here we are. But don't think I'm overreacting here. Don't think for a second that I don't know what the hell is going on, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know what is going on. I'm not going to be the one to explain it. I'm going to show you who really has it out for Bari Weiss, and that's Candace Owens.
Journalist, Bari Weiss. Might be Bari Weiss, I'm not sure. And we're supposed to believe this woman's a genius, okay? She was employed at the New York Times after conveniently spending a year in Israel, Hebrew University, which also happens to be where the Adelsons pour a lot of their money, because Miriam Adelson also attended Hebrew University. Anyways, Bari Weiss.
So I guess it's all about who you know, not what you know, and whether you actually are doing anything to benefit humanity. Well, we all know the Zionist state isn't doing that, and should come as no surprise that Bari Weiss is connected directly to Miriam Adelson, who I have no doubt, again, I don't know, one would have to show me, but please let me know if I'm wrong, that Miriam Adelson is probably a substantial donor to the state of Israel, as well as the Free Press, which pumps up the state of Israel. Again, I don't know for sure, but it's probably pretty likely that that's the case.
Weiss goes over there, does a year there, comes back, Columbia University, gets her journalist degree and gets a job at the New York Times. Okay, great. Then she does this big thing where she goes, I'm leaving the New York Times to launch my own thing, which is the Free Press. And it's obviously just a Zionist outlet. And if you're looking around, people are not being drawn to sign up to support Israel. I'm going to just...
Here's another point that I think is very critical. And that, to me, is what the difference here lies. If anybody wants to know why somebody like Candace Owens can leave the Daily Wire, start her own, and have a massive platform very quickly. Could she have seed money? Certainly possible, but Candace Owens is a personality. People like her. She's very ballsy, to say the least. She's very opinionated. She's very good. She, again, much like Nick Fuentes, there is something about her ability to lead in terms of conversation that she's very good at. So I understand why people are drawn to her. How people are drawn to Bari Weiss, I don't know. I don't really care. But there is no way that she is worth a tenth, 1/10 of what Candace Owens is worth. And I guarantee you that whatever Candace Owens is making is probably not 10% of what the Free Press and Bari Weiss is getting paid. So again, it is about what you know. It's who you know. If Bari Weiss is willing to use her platform for all it's worth to pump out a pro-Israel message, which also goes to show you how desperate they are to control the narrative now, they're willing to give all this money to her to control CBS. It's very difficult for the rich to lose their money, but let me assure you, if the ones in control of the money are the ones who didn't actually make the money, that's when it can be lost. And perhaps Larry Ellison's son, we're not going to call him by his name. We will refer to him as Larry Ellison's son because that is who he is and should always be regarded as. Because that is the only reason he is where he is. And if he wants to give this money to Bari Weiss to pump up CBS, I hope this network crashes and burns so fucking hard that they actually do take a massive hit to their net worth. One can only hope.
show you the last videos that they've posted. And there's the reason why I'm showing you this. Okay. She's had this up 29,000 views for 24 hours, 19,000 views in an interview 2 days ago, 6,000 views on an interview that's been up for 8 days.
I mean, heck, we're doing better than she is. Why don't you give us $250 million? Heck, Jen needs to make some money. Why not give us? Clearly, we're heading in the right direction if our numbers are over 6,000 views on a video. In fact, we have a video right now that's probably at about 6,000 views, and we only dropped it earlier today. How come we're not getting that money? Why is Bari Weiss getting it?
But we're supposed to, every billionaire is lining up to throw money at her. Well, guess what? Now they're saying that Bari Weiss's free press is worth $250 million. That's the valuation, right? $250 million for an organization which shouldn't even be able to employ people if we live in a meritocracy, right? You should be like, she doesn't know where she's making any money. And the idea here is they want you to believe that, okay, maybe nobody's watching them at all on YouTube, but people are reading her, right? It's always the data that we can't see. The most views I've ever seen the free press get, okay, is this week when they announced the valuation, because everybody's reporting going, what's going on? Like, this is so fake. She should, if we actually lived in a meritocracy, she should just be failing. If this was actually the free markets, nobody's buying right now, her business should be going under. But instead, she's selling over $250 million. Anyways.
How's that possible? I thought we lived in a meritocracy. No, we live in an oligarchy. And the state of Israel is as powerful on the mountaintop as you can possibly get. And Candace is right. And I have no doubt that there is a lot of smoke coming for Bari Weiss. But again, you know, that meme of Dave Chappelle wiping his face and clutching the dollar bills. Well, that's kind of the same thing here. Bari Weiss can cry herself to sleep in her millions upon millions of dollars. Now, she did moat Ritch. Bari Weiss is responsible for Rifat Altir, writer of the book, If I Must Die. And he specifically stated in his book that I read, if you want to read a book about what the experience of living in Gaza and then being killed in Gaza is like, read that book. And he specifically said, if I die, if I must die, Bari Weiss is responsible for my death.
I want to show you this really funny clip of Tim Dillon making fun of this absurdity. Take a listen.
I don't care how many, Bari Weiss, whose company is, sold now, is going to sell to CBS for $3 trillion or something. Larry Ellison's son's buying the free press. The very important free press blog that is on Substack is worth $250 million. And I like Bari, but the free, the one that gets like 7,500 views on YouTube, that powerhouse conglomerate media company is worth $250 million. By the way, so the Tim Dillon show is apparently worth $1 billion. Hello, Miriam. Where's...
If you guys do not watch Tim Dillon do his thing, please do. And that is the book, If I Must Die, by Rifat Altir. So please pick up a copy if you haven't already. And please make sure, if you are watching right now, which I guess about 270 of you are here, and we're not even 45 minutes into our stream. So clearly, we are doing something right on a Saturday night. So if you would be so inclined, if you haven't already, and we all know there are several of you that haven't done it, but we really hope you will, make sure that you smash that like button, make sure you are subscribed, and make sure you share the stream. It really makes a difference.
It's my money, $300 million, $250 million for Bari Weiss's blog.
Left is right, up is down, everything is inside out. Refought, is that how you say it, Travers? Smartass? If that is, I will take you at your word. Refot. Somebody correct me. Please do. We hope that this will go around. Dave, if you have any link to that, I'm not aware of it. Listen, Tim's sketchy. No two ways about it. He's funny. I will not take that away from him. He is a funny guy. He really is a funny guy. And sometimes being funny is what allows for... Jen, how do you pronounce it? If I'm doing this wrong, just let me know. But anyway, if you guys are enjoying it so far, and we hope that you are, make sure that you go over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel, and we are growing. In fact, last check, let me give you guys an update. Where are we at right now? As of this moment, we currently sit at 53,776. All right, so we're not at 6,000 views on the clip that we dropped earlier today, but we are sitting total views at 5,500. So like I said, this is something that I really do think, and Jen just sent me a message about Taibbi. Listen, I only found out about it earlier today. This is a new thing regarding Matt Taibbi. So we're going to clip that, obviously, with Candace Owens. Hey, Matt, like I said, we offered to have you on. We were not going to address this. You decided to say, I'm not only not going to talk about this, I am not talking about Israel. Okay, brother. It's not like we're not going to talk about it. This is an issue now. And so for us, it is much too critical for us to ignore. And that is why we have to say what we have to say. And there are a lot of people out there who would simply say that you cannot, I don't want to upset my friends. I don't want to, have these confrontations, et cetera, et cetera. You know what? It doesn't matter. Matt Taibbi has been a guest multiple times, and yes, he draws numbers whenever he comes on here. And you know what? Who cares? I guarantee you, if he sees this, he's never going to come on here. He probably wouldn't come on here again anyway, because he knows what we're about, and he knows that we'll question him, and we'll kind of back him into a corner. And he doesn't like that. And okay, there is something to be said for those people who will put their career over humanity, because that's really what it is, guys. Let's be honest. It isn't about the Palestinian people. It's about humanity. It's about life as we know it in this world that we live in. And if you think your career is more important than humanity, then I'm sorry, we're just not going to break bread with you. I do have an amazing announcement. We do have a new patron, and that is none other than Dr. Feroz Sidwa, who was just our guest on Thursday night. He decided to become a $10 patron of our channel. We cannot thank you enough, Doc. We really appreciated you being here. And Lord knows, if we're so lucky, we will have you back again. And we certainly hope that you enjoyed being with us as much as we enjoyed being with you. And so far, we only have 2 super chats, but we got to give a shout out because we're just getting started. Kenman with the 279 Canadian A. Peter without Jen, like Regis without Kathy Lee. Hey, listen, I got to hold the fort down, and there are topics that I talk about that Jen has no interest in. So I get them out of the way on Saturday. And that's why you're here, Kenman, and we appreciate you being here. Piano Man with the $10 super sticker. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for the contribution. Every dollar counts. So if anybody is so inclined to contribute, we would certainly appreciate it very, very much. And yeah, this is, in times like this, you find out who your real friends are and who your real allies are. And for many people, it's very hard to come to terms with how a lot of people truly are. Given the circumstances, we now know and we now see who these people really are. What do they really stand for? Who are they fighting for? You're not a below average Joe. You're just a Joe. And we're happy to have you here. We are all pissed off. All of us, as we should be. unfortunately, the bigotry in this country that is real and embedded and is thick is for the Muslim community. And that is a big part of it. I have family and friends that are like that, that think that way. But as I've pointed out, and as I pointed out to somebody close to me, I said, have you ever been to a mosque? Have you ever actually been around Muslim people? And they said, no, I haven't. So then how the hell can you form an opinion about people if you don't even know them? And we have a tendency to take everything on faith from people that clearly do not have our best interests at heart. I think we all know that by now. And so when people show you their true colors, I have a rager meter. Let me see where it is. Oh, there it is. See, I'm getting raged up here. I'll tell you why. Because this next segment, oh boy, hang on tight because this is rager meter time, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you thought that David Pakman was done being a shit lib, no. He is doubling down on his statement that he is leaving the left. And he really wants you to know how much he not only hates them, but is willing to go to lose as much of his supporting network in order to prove that his loyalty is with corporate special interests. And who better than his latest guest on his really shitty podcast.
Great to welcome to the program today Congressman Ritchie Torres, who has represented New York's 15th congressional district in the Bronx since 2021. He's on the House Financial Services Committee, also the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the U.S. and China. It's so great to have you on. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat a little.
What an opportunity to speak with one of the biggest Zionist corporate whores in all of Congress. Didn't Pakman suggest that AIPAC was EPAC, I believe is how he referred to it? Well, he clearly is very excited about having him on. And why would that be? Why would he be so enthusiastic about having him on? Now, as long as Jose Vega is running, we will support him. Obviously, he's going to need to build a stronger financial infrastructure if he's going to have any chance of being competitive. But Jose knows we'll always have him on the podcast. Always happy to boost his network and get him more support. I do believe that Ritchie Torres is going to be challenged for his congressional seat. I think it's either going to be Michael Blake. It might even be Jamal Bowman. But he will be challenged in a primary. And it's amazing how quickly things change. And a lot of things ultimately ended up changing as a result of Zohran Mamdani winning the primary for New York's mayoral race. Why is that big? Nani, welcome to our channel. Happy to have you here. Please smash that like button. And if you like what you hear, we hope you'll subscribe and share. The biggest reason that this is a significant situation here is because so much of Ritchie Torres's political trajectory changed with Zohran winning. Had he not won, it's almost assured that he would be running for governor of the state of New York. And being that he's a Democrat, perhaps he might have won. But now he is not only not running for governor, he may very well be on his way out of Congress. There is going to be a groundswell of epic proportions for whomever challenges him for that seat in the Democratic primary. Jose will be there in the general election. Maybe Jose won't run in the general if Ritchie Torres is knocked off. But we'll see what happens. For the time being, we certainly support him. But you know who supports Ritchie Torres? David Pakman does.
A little bit.
Happy to be here.
So maybe to start with, I'm interested in your perspective right now on the progressive movement. And the reason I want to talk to you about this is I see you really, when people ask me, who do you see right now as the sort of progressive that you like to be at the head of this movement going forward? I think of you, and there's a bunch.
I think of Ritchie Torres as the leader of left politics in the United States. How much do you think Pakman was paid for that statement? Because I'm going to guess it was quite a bit. Or he truly is a scumbag of the highest levels. Saying that Ritchie Torres, it's one thing to say that you support Ritchie Torres, of which you're a total fuck and a half for saying that. But let's go the full fuck you with, and I think you're the best leader for left politics in the United States. Could anybody possibly be that out of step with reality? Or is it truly a completely bought and paid for whore like David Pakman? Or is it both? Maybe it's both. I don't know. Maybe he really does believe the bullshit that comes out of his mouth. But of all the people that you're going to slob the knob of, you're going to do it to Ritchie Torres? Sorry for the graphic detail, but heck, I got to call it like I see it. The best person to lead left politics is Ritchie Torres? I'm sorry, but if you're not being paid to say that, you're a dupe and a derp. See what else he has to say.
Bunch of different reasons why. And unfortunately, there is right now a bit of a division, as I see it, on the left on a number of issues that includes foreign policy, certain.
There is no disagreement. You are not on the left. You are not on any political spectrum that involves non-corporate populism. There is no left and right bullshit anymore. That's dead. What you stand for is everything that the working people of this country do not. And how anyone was taken in by this stupid, pointless, wet paper bag of a content creator. Again, I don't know what the appeal is of this guy. I listened to him on a handful of occasions back in 2015 when he had favorable things to say about Bernie Sanders. But I never for a second thought, oh yeah, this guy's totally got it. He totally has what it takes to attract people and get them to listen to him. He's like Ben Shapiro, only worse. As much as I hate Ben Shapiro, at least I know he's got some talent. I hate saying that, but it's true. David Pakman? What the fuck does he have? He's a very bland, elitist commentator. And as I've pointed out before, Pac-Man, a Pac-Man. And can we please get this going, guys? That is his name. Let's do everything in our power to make that stick. A. Pakman is his name. And he really wants you to know that he is completely engulfed in this broken system. You get Brian Tyler Cohen, you get any of those other content creators that got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And yes, we will attempt to have Taylor Lorenz come on and talk about it. But David Pakman is the one above all the others who was being completely defiant. He embraces this. He embraces being the villain. Hey, good for him. I just hope that anyone who ever thought he was worth listening to stops listening to him. I hope he loses his subscribers. I hope he loses all of his paid. Well, he's probably not going to lose his paid sponsors. They'll probably stick around because for them, it's going to be a matter of whether he can deliver the goods. Now, if he's getting pumped up by Google to support the Israel cause, then it doesn't really matter if he's getting the numbers. Just look at Bari Weiss. It really doesn't matter. And this, to me, is the dead giveaway. He wants you to know the mask is off now. And he's thumbing people in the eye by saying, oh, yeah, it's totally about Ritchie Torres. He's the future of left politics in the United States. Clip this, save it, and let me tell you, rub it in his smirky fucking face the second that Torres is out of politics, which hopefully will be less than a year away. The New York primary is next June. So we are 10 months away. And in that time, somebody's going to challenge Ritchie, and hopefully he'll be finished. And then we'll have to go back to David Pakman and see who the real leader of politics is on the left. Who would be his next person? My guess is John Fetterman. That'll be the next guy. Guys, we're at 290. Let's get to 300. Smash that like button. Let's continue to get this out there. Let's see if there's anything more genius commentary to come from David Pakman.
The Israeli-Gaza situation has brought this into the forefront for a lot of people.
Yeah, it has. And you two are on the wrong side of history, and you are going to pay dearly for it in the long run. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon enough, it will come to bite you in the ass. The fact of the matter is, you decided to have on Ritchie Torres in lieu of everything that's going on right now. Heck, if you are not having strings pulled in your back, then as I said, you're more incompetent than I even thought possible. But as we've seen, the only reason people act this way is if they have something to gain financially. When you're a full-blown sellout, and as of today, the Israel lobby is still very powerful and is still convincing a hell of a lot of people that this is the direction that one needs to go in. It's pathetic, but it is where we are. He is doing some type of a humiliation ritual, that of which I cannot explain. Who the hell wants to talk to Ritchie Torres, especially after that interview with Adam Friedman? Talk about an embarrassment. So what do? They get Pakman to bring him on and buff his balls for him. That's it. Fuck Ritchie Torres and fuck Mr. Pakman, a Pakman, even harder. Soon enough, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in the very near future, they are going to feel the wrath of what that change is going to be all about. But I don't want to leave only one side of the equation covered, because that's one thing that we don't want to do. I want to be very clear that this is not a left issue, right issue. It's a corporate issue, but it is definitely and still very much so a Democrat and Republican establishment problem. Now, David Pakman's not the only content creator who has a thing or two to say about this. I bring you guys to the attention of one Brandon Tatum. Now, I've known who Brandon Tatum is for many years. I'm familiar with his shtick. He's a failed professional football player turned police officer turned content creator. And all of a sudden, in the last several weeks, he has become as big an Israel shill as you could possibly imagine. And I'm only going to give you guys just a little taste of what some of his commentary is. And then we're going to hear from our real industry expert on the shady behavior of a lot of these content creators. Our good friend Blakeley is going to have a nice commentary on this. But first, here's what he had to say. Men crying about people dying during a war is weird. Kids dying. Yeah, bro, it's urban warfare. It happens, unfortunately. What a bunch of wussies with a P. Glad you never served. You cowards would never fight for freedom. Now, the reason I pulled this one up is for a very specific reason. Brandon Tatum never served this country. In fact, I believe that a lot of what he talks about borders on stolen valor. He would like people to believe that he served, but there is no indication that he did. I looked up his record, top to bottom. He never did. He served in the police department. And if you think that that's worthy of calling yourself a public servant, I'm sorry. There is some degree of public service that is involved with being a police officer. But we all know, especially the way it's evolved in recent years, that that's not how it is. It's much more worse and much more sinister. But that's not all. Colin, can I get the one about Israel, please? He just posted this a few days ago. October 7th is burned into my memories. The beheading, the murdering of innocent men, women, and children, burning people alive, raping women, the cheering in Gaza at the death of innocent people. I will never forget. That day turned me into a warrior for Israel. Some warrior. What do? Comment online? Tell people how great Israel is? And you get paid to do that? As I said, can't pay me enough. I'm not anti-cop, but I am strongly for major police reform. And the policy that I would push for is the elimination of, I'm trying to remember the qualified immunity. You have to eliminate qualified immunity. If you want policing to change in the United States, it will only change if you put them in a bind financially. That's it. There is no other way. The police will police the police, and that is it. But Blakeley, our good friend, had a thing or two to say about this.
Actually, one of the funniest stories that I've seen all week, okay? So this guy is a YouTuber who never used to talk about the Israeli regime.
First of all, I have to say right off the bat, and I don't mean to poke at anybody specifically if anybody battles weight problems, but my goodness, Brandon Tatum has blown up like a balloon. And he, again, former, he made it to the NFL Combine. I mean, he went pretty far. This is about 15 years ago. But he didn't make it. He never got picked up. He went undrafted, and then he decided to become a police officer. And then, lo and behold, he became a Trump ball buffer, and, now he's got himself a platform that he runs with. And clearly he saw an opportunity to make some more money, and this is how he decided to go about doing it. Speaking to Netanyahu, just like Patrick Bet-David, just like the Nettle boy, guys remember the name. We covered that once. So I can't remember the names. I don't give a shit. But nevertheless, I would say that this is a pretty big deal.
Literally not at all. And then out of nowhere, like a month ago, he started doing Zionist propaganda. And it's really weird. It happened to coincide around the same time that it was revealed that the Israeli regime was spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Hasbara, on influencers, and in the media, like Google, how they spent $50 million there in order to try to change the narrative, because people in the West, especially in America, not only oppose the genocide that the Israeli regime is carrying out in Gaza, but they're starting to have an unfavorable view of Israel in general.
I could not agree with Blakeley more. There is no question that it is turning. But what I think is going to be very interesting is now it's so obvious that these guys are bought and paid for. So how long before the audience just kind of clues in and is like, you guys are way too much of a corporate hackery for me to ever support you? That, for me, I think, is a huge part of this. And make sure you're subscribed to Blakeley's channel if you're not already. Good to see you, Lou. Again, do I think that Brandon Tatum believes any of the bullshit that's spewing out of his mouth? Probably not. But the checks are really good. And if the checks are really good, like they are for David Pakman, they sure as shit are for Brandon Tatum. And he's going to say whatever the fuck he needs to in order to get that sweet corporate cash, even if it's bathed in Palestinian blood. And that's okay. Blood washes off, right? That's how they look at it.
left is already gone. Even the libs, the Democrats, they're gone. They're losing the Republicans. And that's not an easy thing to do because a lot of Republicans are brainwashed from a very young age because of evangelical dispensationalism.
That is partially true, but remember where evangelism is popular. It's popular, as Casey Malone, guest of our show, has said before. It's popular in the heartland. It is popular in the South. It is not popular all over the country. Not all Republicans are like that. In fact, a substantial amount of the Republican base, especially the young base, or younger base, I should say, is very America First libertarian in a lot of ways. So they're not really with this anyway. But I do believe that a lot more of the younger generation, those that were raised in the evangelical church, they're starting to break away. So as I said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. That's what we have to remember.
Who supports the nation state of Israel. So this guy's a Christian, and clearly I can't prove that he was totally paid off to do this, so I won't say that. Okay, so what's the funny part? The funny part is most Christians don't know that they're hated in Israel. Like, literally hated. Israelis hate Christians, and they will often, it's a known thing, spit on Christians when they are there. They laugh.
That is 100% true. If anybody has not seen the video clips of the religious Zionist Jews in, well, probably Tel Aviv would be my guess where a lot of those clips are drawn from. But I can assure you, if you have not seen them, and it's not even Palestinians, if you haven't seen them go in front of churches as well as mosques and spit on them, oh, it's real, baby. It is very real.
At Christians, they laugh at us for being really stupid and uneducated and blah, blah, blah. So he's doing propaganda trying to get Christians back on his side. That's why he's here, to do propaganda on this guy's show. And listen to what he says.
Israel is the only place where we're respected and protected. You know, went to Israel. I spent 2 weeks there with the church, and we had an incredible time. We had only one incident where a small child spit on one of the pastors.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Only one instance. I'm sure it happens all the time. But when we were there, they did everything in their power not to let such a thing happen because they were warned not to let it happen. We have to keep up appearances. That's very important. So we cannot look bad to the public. So make sure if you're going to spit, don't do it directly on them. Only spit once. I don't know. Kind of let the cat out of the bag on that one, Brandon boy.
They're trying to help him. He's trying to help with the propaganda. He's like, listen, I only got spit on once. Hey, Officer Tatum, you weren't supposed to say that. That's an off-camera statement. Right-wing Christians, let me know. Are you?
I agree. That was a slip of the tongue. He wasn't supposed to let that out because, again, that only further proves how absolutely fucked they are. Their ideology is running out of places to go. Could you imagine? Just think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Could you imagine the level of desperation that they have to feel right now? That Netanyahu, Milikowski feels that he has to go on with this fuck? That this is who he has to talk to get a point across? To try to convince another audience? I don't know about you, but that reeks of desperation. Who else could they possibly convince? Who else? There isn't anybody else. They have to go for the grifters now because those are the only ones that are going to platform them. There are enough people with enough sense at this point to say, yeah, this is definitely toxic. I can't get anywhere near this. But whether you are on the liberal side, conservative side, everything in between, it doesn't matter. If the price is right, they will do it. But that's what we're reduced to. Whether it is a David Pakman, who represents the Democrats, whether it's Brandon Tatum, who represents the Republicans, if their hand is out and their platform's big enough and is being boosted by Google 24/7, sure, they'll do it. How much you think Brandon Tatum was paid for this clip? I'll guess at least 100,000. That's my guess. I mean, I don't know, guys, if his platform is that big on YouTube. I know he's got a very substantial following on X. I believe he's over 850,000 subscribers. I mean, that's big business for sure. And certainly a reach for sure. But my guess is it's so RJK thinks he's cheap. He thinks it's only 10,000. Hey, you know what? When you're desperate, yeah, maybe. But as I said, much like with Pakman and Ritchie Torres being a humiliation ritual, this seems quite like the humiliation ritual as well on Tatum's part. Again, to subject yourself to such cuckery is amazing. And remember, all those shekels are bathed in Palestinian blood, and you'll never be able to wipe it off, no matter how hard you try. So that is where we are. And it sucks. But he is, like a lot of others, just looking for a payday. And as we've seen in this grifting economy that continues to spiral every day, where people get more and more desperate to make money, there are lengths that people will go to in order to get it. The jobs report comes out, and it is substantially worse than what was projected. 75,000 was the projection. 22,000 is the total amount of new jobs. I don't know about you, but I would say things are getting pretty desperate out there. Are we in a full-blown recession at this point? I mean, it's debatable. I would definitely say that things are not good. Not good. Definitely not good. And this is exactly why we have talked at length about why certain content creators are getting to certain levels of prominence. Now, for those of you who have been following this channel, particularly the Saturday night independent show that I have been doing for a while, you guys would know that I have had a pretty strong opinion about Nick Fuentes. And apparently Fuentes is going to be either a guest on Jimmy Dore's podcast next week, perhaps even a host, I guess. So that one's going to break the internet in many ways. The one thing that I want people to understand, regardless of where this America First movement is going, there are people that are already breaking away from Trump. And Nick Fuentes is at the head of the class.
I'm just wondering what the audience is for any of this. So Trump was an FBI informant working to deliver Epstein to justice. Oh, okay. And how
right off the bat, the level of desperation that they feel that they have to run cover for the Epstein story by suggesting that Trump was an FBI informant. I mean, the idea that you would even publicly admit, even if it was true, and you know what? In many instances, these guys are FBI informants. So it's probably, honestly, it might be true. It might be true. But the idea that you're going to say it publicly, Trump's an FBI informant, and that's why they can't release his name. Victoria might be onto something. It is questionable. And there is something to be said for his health, because clearly he's not doing well. Anyone with an objective eye could see that health-wise, Trump is not in good shape.
How does that work? Who knows? So I just, it's hard to continue watching this. And I say this as the guy that's totally vindicated. I don't know how the Trump supporters still do it. I don't know. I was talking to some buddies of mine today, and I said, you know, the fatal conceit of the people that continue to support this movement is they say this line, they say, trust the plan. I'm a plan truster. I trusted the plan. Did you trust the plan? And the problem with this notion is that I don't think there is a plan.
There isn't a plan. They don't know what to do because remember, if you are attached at the hip to corporate special interests, there is a limit to what you will be permitted to do, to what you will be permitted to get away with. And as of right now, it goes without saying that there is going to be a movement that is going to grow exponentially out of Trump's movement, and Nick Fuentes is going to lead one of those efforts. I am not here to support him. I am here to challenge him, but I also know that he is very charismatic and people love him and they're following him wherever he goes. You see, the problem with Fuentes in many ways is the same problem with Trump. It's the same problem with the vote blue no matter who Democratic Party sycophants. They need, as Jen puts it, upper management. They need somebody to lead them, which is why the evangelical church is so powerful in this country, even though anyone with an objective eye who didn't grow up in that environment can see that it's a cult. It's a clear as day cult if there ever was one. But millions upon millions of people follow them on a regular basis. And so when you need upper management, there are good people that actually understand that with great power comes great responsibility. But there are also those who take full advantage of those that are afraid, unsure, and scared. And right now, a lot of people are scared. They don't know what direction is which in this country. That's a scary place to be. I mean, we see how completely decimated and dead the Democratic Party establishment is. But they're going to sink the whole party into the ground. They're going to break. There's no other way. They couldn't possibly find a way out of this. It's not possible. But on the other side of the coin, you have, I would say right now, two significant movements that are brewing that are what I would consider the non-corporate America First side of not even so much conservative or even libertarian politics, but more so just populist politics overall. One faction is going to be Nick Fuentes' people. The other faction is going to be Thomas Massie and what movement he's going to lead. Then, of course, you still have the tried and true conservatives, the evangelicals, if you will, even those that support the establishment. That much we know is what's coming on the political right. As far as what the so-called political left is dealing with right now, the only thing that they have to hang their hat on, period, is Zoran Mamdani. Not Bernie Sanders, not AOC, not Ro Khanna. Sorry, Ro. All they have is Zoran. That's it. That's all they have. And they better hope he wins in November. Because if you think that party is dead now, it'll be completely dead if he does not win the general election. Cory fucking Booker is going to run for president again as a Democrat. Gavin Newsom is going to run for president and have a lot of money behind him. The party is dying. And there is no movement leader on the left side of populist politics like there is a right movement leader like Nick Fuentes. Think about that.
Well, as a matter of fact, I know there's no plan. There is no plan here with any of it. There's no plan with the tariffs. There's no plan with Russia. There's no plan with immigration. There never has been. I don't know if there was ever a plan from the very beginning. What this plan is or was. I don't know that there is any sort of method. I don't think this administration is thinking even 2 or 3 steps ahead, let alone people are talking about five-dimensional chess and all these incredibly complex psychological manipulations. I don't think they're thinking even a few weeks ahead. They're on a 2-week timeline always.
And part of the reason they're on this 2-week timeline, as Fuentes puts it, is because I truly do believe, based on what I've seen, and as you guys know, I'm as objective as anybody who does content creation on YouTube for politics. I do think that Trump's health is catching up to him. And I do think that he's having some serious problems. And as a result, they don't know what to do. And Vance is waiting in the wings, but more specifically, Peter Thiel's puppet is waiting in the wings to take over this country. And if you think we're a surveillance state now, you haven't seen anything yet. Heck, I think Glenn Greenwald really owes this country an apology because he kind of talked up J.D. Vance. I mean, I was wrong about J.D. Vance. I didn't support him. I didn't support them taking over. But heck, you know, there's so much propaganda out there. There is so much that we have to deal with. And it's very difficult to try and hone this message. And again, as I've said, I say to this audience, I say to everybody, and to the 315 people watching right now, if you haven't smashed that like button, please make sure that you do. Please make sure that you are subscribed. Please make sure that you share the stream. 325 people watching now. Guys, please help us get this message out there as much as we can. The reason I cover Fuentes is simply this. He has a substantial platform. And a lot of people are listening. There's a number of things he gets right. There's a number of things he gets wrong. And I think we have to be cognizant of what is actually moving working people in this country right now. And you know who's moving working people? It's Nick Fuentes.
So they say this, trust the plan. It's like, what was part of the plan here? Asking the FBI to look for all the mentions of your name, getting told you're named in the files, then burying them, then hoping it would go away when it didn't, saying it was a Democrat hoax. When people didn't buy that, blaming your own supporters, hoping it would go away after that. When it didn't, now say that you're a FBI informant that was helping to actually destroy Jeffrey Epstein. What was the plan there?
They don't know what to do. They don't have a plan. Because they know that this country is getting restless. Everyone always asks me, when is this so-called revolution coming? When is this so-called blow-up circumstance going to happen? I'm not 100% sure. Because it obviously takes at least 3%. That's what we're told. It takes at least 3% of the population to say, fuck this shit, I'm not doing it anymore, for there to be substantive, generational, revolutionary change. But little by little, people are starting to look around and say, is this system broken? Are we kind of doomed where we stand now? Yes, we are. And that's why Fuentes is blowing up, because he may be on the political right, but he, like a lot of people on the political left, is ready to burn it down. And there are a lot of people out there who want to burn it down. And I get it. And as you guys know, I am a participant in capitalism. I'm in commercial real estate. So I live it. But I'm not naive. I know exactly what's going on. I see it every day. We can try to do everything in our capacity to try to make that change. But if we do not collectively come together, you're going to have people like Nick Fuentes leading massive movements in this country. And while I think some of what people say about him is overblown, I also can see why people are afraid of him. He's got a huge ego. He's got very coarse language. He says a lot of things that I think are done for shock value. Whether he believes them or not, I'm not sure. But people are following him. And he is directly challenging the president of the United States, and he knows that it is having an impact. That's a hell of a lot of power for a very young and very angry young man. So who knows what's going to come of it? We don't know for sure what direction this country's going to go in, but we know for sure that whatever it's going to look like from a right populist perspective, it's going to come from Nick Fuentes and from Thomas Massie. Now, of course, I'm more inclined to follow Massie for sure, but we cannot ignore that Fuentes is a big deal in the grand scheme of things. No question about it. Now, if you're going to look at left politics and ask yourself, is there anything significant that's happening right now? Again, the only thing you've got, and I mean the only thing you have going for you, is Zoran Mamdani. That's it. And whether you are that far left politically, the one thing you can say about Zoran, so far anyway, Kenman, Tucker Carlson is definitely a leader, but not a leader like Fuentes and Massie is. Totally different. I see Tucker Carlson in the vein of just almost like a Rush Limbaugh. That's what I see. I happen to like Tucker Carlson. I think Rush Limbaugh is one of the biggest scumbags that ever lived. So, no. I agree with Sep. Nick Fuentes is definitely a Howard Stern shock jock type of guy. But that doesn't mean that he isn't corralling a lot of very angry and very armed people in this country. Now, the only thing that the left has going for it at all, one thing, is Zoran Mamdani. And so AOC decided to offer her commentary regarding this issue on Capitol Hill. But again, she does it in the same light as one would do when it comes to politics. Playing politics, and this is why she's not a real leader. She'll have a lot of support, for sure. But this type of commentary is the type of politics that people just don't want to play anymore.
We have a Democratic nominee. Are we a party that rallies behind our nominee or not? And I believe, as a person who has rallied, I supported Joe Biden when he was the nominee.
Why is that something that you want to brag about? It's not. Why are there people in the GOP that freely admit that they don't support Donald Trump, who has a hell of a lot more influence and power than Joe Biden ever did? What is the point of saying, oh, I totally supported Joe Biden. I totally supported Kamala Harris. What is that getting you? I'm still trying to understand this rationalization. Maybe if we supported the Democratic corporate nominee 5 times in a row, maybe they'll give us one of ours who's not a corporate whore. Attempting to play that game is so old and sad. And this is supposed to be the so-called leader of the younger generation of Democrats. This lady. We supported the corporate ones, so why won't they support our non-corporate ones? Because the Democratic Party is the corporate party. The Republicans are too. But the Democrats have proven time and again. Just look at our clip a little earlier of David Pakman. They are not going to change no matter how hard you simp on their ass. You can never suck them off hard enough to get them to change their course of action. But she has more to say.
Was not my preferred candidate in the primary. I, of course, supported Vice President Harris for the president.
And she was working nonstop for that ceasefire. Let me tell you, have you ever apologized for that statement? Have you ever said, you know what, I really fucked up by saying that Kamala Harris was going to be better on Israel than Donald Trump? Guess what? They did a poll about a month ago just to prove, despite all the shit that Trump has thrown at us for the past several months, if you had to do the election again, how would you vote? Trump still wins by 3 points.
because I am a Democrat, and what we do is
You goddamn right you are a Democrat. You couldn't make that more clear if you tried. And the people who still want to support her cannot and will not accept that she let you down. And you know what? You're no fucking better than someone who is a completely blind Trumper, who doesn't want to accept that Donald Trump was never your friend. We're totally saving this country. No, we're not. He was saving himself and creating a whole new big network of support. There's somebody worth supporting. Shama Sawant. That's somebody worth supporting. If you guys have not seen our interview with Shama Sawant, please check it out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And honestly, we didn't even really talk a lot about her campaign for Congress. We talked about the impact of Peter Thiel and how much of a thorn in his side Shama Sawant really is. That's a leader. That's somebody who actually is on the right side of things.
that we use our primaries to settle our differences, and once we have a nominee, we rally behind that nominee. I am very concerned.
What about if your primary process is completely rigged to the hilt? Does that ever come into the equation? How can you possibly win a primary in the Democratic Party, especially for president, with both your arms and legs tied behind your back? How do you do it? I'm still waiting for the answer. I'm still waiting for the answer as to why you push support for the party when you have super delegates. How do you do it, Alex? You're not convincing anyone to join the party. No one. You're not convincing anybody. You're losing support every day. And again, the only reason you would talk this way, and again, I don't see Alex as a corporate whore. Chris Garrett, great to see you. Thank you. And guys, smash that like button if you haven't. You're just aiding and abetting the inevitable. You're making it so much worse. You do have the power. You have the influence. You could absolutely change course. But nope, she's not going to do it. She's got too many big plans on her mind. And that's what matters to Alex.
Concerned about the example that is being set by anybody in our party. I believe that we must set the example of supporting the party's nominee, because it complicates. If an individual doesn't want to support the party's nominee now, it complicates their ability to ask voters to support any nominee later, whether that is mayoral, presidential, what have you.
That is something that she's actually right about. That is the first accurate statement that she said. Do I think that this is accelerating the demise of the Democratic Party by them throwing Zoran under the bus? Heck, even the DNC begrudgingly decided that they said, yeah, we support Zoran. Are they going to give him any help? No. But did they play politics and say, he's the nominee, we support him? Yes. But are the two most powerful Democrats in the entire country that happen to be in New York City supporting Zoran? Of course not. Jeffries is a total puppet. And we all know what Schumer is. He might as well be an agent of the Mossad. This is how it is. So is she right that this is going to cause a major rift in the party going forward? It is. But the party is already dying as it is. This is just going to accelerate it that much faster.
And so I think for the good of the party, we must put our differences aside and support our party's nominee.
It sounds as though you are frustrated, though, with Jeffries and Schumer for not publicly making a position on this yet.
No, I mean, I think that this isn't about personalities, right? I think that we're in a moment of a Trump administration. The stakes are high, and I want, of course, to see our party come together and stick together despite our differences. And that's how I feel about the matter.
As I said, she is going to do what she is going to do, which is continue to prove that for her, it is about a career. I don't want to downplay how big of an impact I believe that Zoran Mamdani will ultimately have if he is able to win. And I do think that it should go without saying, if you're going to run in the Democratic Party, you are going to have to make certain concessions. And it is unfortunate that that is what we are coming to at this point. I personally like Zoran. I think he has some good to offer. I don't want to completely throw him under the bus, as I think a lot of other people have chosen to do, that he is not worthy of support. I don't buy that. I think he deserves to be given an opportunity since he hasn't sold out. But there are things that he will be doing that some people are going to be questioning. Colin, please check your phone. He had a rally earlier today in New York City. And yes, AOC was there. And yes, Bernie was there. And unfortunately, there are those people who see him acting in the vein that he's acting in and thinking that he is ultimately going to succumb to the pressure that everybody else does. Now, I haven't seen him rub elbows with the true scum of the Democratic Party establishment, but there is no question that he is playing right into their hands. He did a rally. He had a lot to say. But herein lies the rub if you choose to play within this circle. If he becomes the mayor and he is able to get one of his major policies passed, I personally am looking at the government run grocery store in each of the 5 boroughs. That's a big deal. Rent control could be a big deal. Public transportation could be a big deal. If he feels the need to go down this road, okay. There were several Zion Nazis that disrupted their rally today. But in reality, he's very popular. I just think if he's going to go down the road of supporting Bernie and AOC, who cannot get right on Palestine, and Zoran is right on Palestine, that's what hurts the most. You are the company you keep. So here's what he had to say earlier today.
And the reason that I began my speech in solidarity with PSC, can you all stand up if you're a PSC member? Can you stand up if you're a student at Brooklyn College? What we have seen, and James, for a little dramatic effect, can I steal your hat? Thank you, James. Give it up for the head of the PSC, James Davis! Very large head.
Just don't have a very large ego. Say what you want. He's very good. He's very smooth, but he's very good. And people need to have something to hang on to. As I said, when you ask why people become big supporters of Nick Fuentes, Jen likes to say people need upper management. And perhaps this type of upper management is exactly what he needs. But I'm telling you, the more critical issue here is going to be what's going to happen in the UK with Jeremy Corbyn. In a parliamentary system, a true left party can rise and balance out the capitalism with some socialism. In the United States, we don't have that. We have a broken electoral system that is wholeheartedly corrupted, dishonest elections, That's how it is. And so people look to somebody like Zoran and say, lead us. We need somebody. We need somebody who cares about us. We can't think for ourselves. We can't do it ourselves. And I don't shame people who are not capable of hacking it on their own. I get it. It's very hard. But the vulnerable are always the ones who get the most taken advantage of. So I hope, I can only hope that this is something that he recognizes how much of a significant position he's in to cause positive change. If he sells out in any way, it'll come quick. I don't think he's one of those guys that'll just do it over time. We'll know right away if he's going to fight for those key issues, those 3 key issues that I mentioned. And if he wins with a mandate, he's got to get one of them. He's got to pick one, he's got to charge it, and he's got to get it. And if it's successful, maybe he can do another. But that's the task at hand. He has got to do one champion of working people type policy if he gets in a couple of months.
I wear this hat, and I say this in this moment, because the point that is being raised is that we are seeing faculty members who are facing not just discipline, but termination for the crime of expressing solidarity with the fight for Palestinian human rights. And I know.
Now, at this point, if he were to say something else, even hesitating, even slightly going in another direction on this issue of our time, that we would see cracks in the armor. And Bernie's sitting right there. And he knows that Zoran will say things that Bernie will not say. Clearly. But Zoran, if he was going to change on that issue, you would think he would change now. But he hasn't. That's the key.
That this is a repression that is not unique to Brooklyn College. It is a repression that extends even to the ways in which we choose when to send police officers onto college campuses. The incident around encampments here at Brooklyn College, the decision to surge officers into that site is one that leaves students less safe than they were before.
And that's the idea. The idea is to scare the shit out of them and make them as unsafe as humanly possible. Like I said, he's definitely playing the game. No question. No one is above it. But let's not forget. Saul, don't even think about it, brother. Don't even think about it. This man is on the verge of becoming the most powerful chief executive at the local level in the world. The chief executive of New York City. That is one hell of a job. So he's got a lot riding on his ass to get some stuff right and to walk that line. And Lord knows what type of pressure he's feeling and what type of threats he's getting.
And that is why I have said, as a mayor who will live up to Eric Adams, of all people, statement in 2021, that New Yorkers need not choose between safety and justice, that I will be committed to delivering actual safety, not to the use of the term as a means of repression. And so this commitment is one that I do not just make as a candidate, it is also one that I will fulfill as the mayor of this city.
Yeah, he's smooth, but he really knows what he needs to do. Mike, give Zoran a chance. That's all I ask. If he fucks up, we'll know pretty fast. And even if he's not your cup of tea in terms of political ideology, here's what I can assure you about him as it stands today, more than anything else. Until he proves otherwise, he has not sold us out to corporate special interests. The second he does that, he's finished. But that's what matters. And if anybody knows anything about living in New York City and how absolutely insane the cost of living is and the burden that has been put on working class New Yorkers, something's going to give. I don't want communism. So we better try something, and fast, or we're in big trouble. That is exactly why everyone should be on alert at all times. He's about as good as anybody I've seen come along since Bernie ran the first time in 2015. In fact, he is as good. I remember how good Trump was when he ran the first time. In terms of the engagement, he's the closest thing in a decade. There's no two ways about it. And you know what? We've seen enough and been through enough to know that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. But in the end, let's give him a shot. What else do we have going for us right now? Not much. But he's got a pretty good chance. And the fact that Trump and his cohorts are trying to get both Eric Adams, the current mayor, and Curtis Silva, the Republican nominee, to drop out and give them a job in the Trump administration, and then in turn rally behind Andrew Cuomo to become the mayor, you can see how desperate they are to knock him off. If they thought for any reason that they could control this guy, they wouldn't try this. They wouldn't even attempt it. They just say, all right, let him get in there. We'll deal with him once he's elected. They are pulling out all the stops to try to prevent this from happening. So I don't know what's going to happen. And frankly, I don't need to hear what Bernie has to say, because Bernie's already here. And I could tell you at the rally that happened in New York earlier today, I really do appreciate Zohar Mamdani, because he's going to take some pressure off of my back. And I don't have to be the person who is going to have to convince the American people that they can listen to me and feel inspired. Because I can't even say the word genocide of the Palestinian people. Because I still believe that the state of Israel has the right to defend itself. Well, you know what? Zoran don't talk in that language. And the fact that he said what he said at that rally, he's continuing to prove that he's willing to fight the good fight. I don't like this photo. I'm sure none of you guys like it either. But to me, I see him as the leader. If you think about it, you can kind of sense the energy in the picture. You sense that he understands not only his position, but he's also somebody who I think fully understands that he doesn't have to kowtow to anybody. And I would go so far as to say that if he does win, he is the de facto leader. He doesn't answer to Alex. He doesn't answer to Bernie. We'll see what he does. As I said, stay on alert. Don't assume the worst, but give him the benefit of the doubt. Until he lets us down, maybe he is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Maybe he's not. We have not been proven that any of them are not. And since he seems to be the best of them, and what he has done, and I want to say this to the chat, to everybody who's been here tonight, and we've had a hell of a crowd. He's already won. He's already done more for all of us than anyone else could have ever hoped for when it came to striking a winning blow against the Zionist movement, against the Israel lobby. No one has done more than Zoran Mamdani. He changed the course of this country's trajectory when it came to Israel. So that in itself is a big deal. And so I give him a small grace period. I think he's earned it. If you guys have enjoyed this tonight, please make sure to go to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. Last count, we are at, I'll tell you right now, 53,795 subscribers. 53,797 subscribers. So clearly you guys like a little bit. You like me a little bit, just a little bit. You like me a little bit. And I'll take it. I appreciate any and all support. Cheers to new member Lynn Ann. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We are thrilled to have you with us. Thank you very, very much, and hope you enjoyed the conversation this evening. Kedman with the 279 Canadian A once again. Keep standards low and never be disappointed. I mean, I can't disagree. It's funny, but it is true. So cheers to you. Noah Linden with the $2. Thank you very much. Do you think Ilhan Omar is a valid choice? Look, we haven't even addressed Ilhan tonight, and we're not going to get to her now. There is definitely something going on with Ilhan regarding her husband and what exactly is going on with how she got that money. I have met Ilhan on multiple occasions. She's been very good to Jen, but you know what? If you're a crook, you're a crook. And there is no acceptance of that. I don't know why the hell she would put herself in such a situation, knowing that everyone is gunning for her 24/7. But somehow she and her husband are worth $30 million. And again, I'm sure it's over-exaggerated. Just like they said AOC was worth over 10 million. Again, is there truth to what this apparent startup company that blew up for her is going to do? Yeah, it's probably true. But this is the thing. Politicians are not our saviors. They're not our friends. We have to hold them to account. That's why I hold Thomas Massie in such high regard. He chooses to be a public servant. He chooses not to be a corrupt fuck. And he challenges Trump purposefully. He doesn't even try to sidestep it. He embraces being Trump's counterpoint. Even if you don't agree with him wholeheartedly politically, it doesn't matter. The respect has to be there for those who are truly working on the side of justice. That's big. I also believe that Massie realizes that if he's not there, he'll always have an opportunity elsewhere. He's that intelligent. But we will most likely address the Ilhan Omar story on Monday. Sep, thank you so much for the $9.99. Unfortunately, the left does not have a true opposition to Israel ownership of America. I agree. Until then, we back Fuentes and MTG. And I want to say one thing, hashtag Free Palestine, hashtag America First. Here's what I will say about MTG. Marjorie is 1,000% committing insider trading. There's no two ways about it. She could say that it's her money manager that's doing it, but there is no question she is trading on inside information. We are going to have a clip that is going to drop in 1 hour that is going to cover that, as well as Debbie Wasserman Schultz profiting off of war crimes. Shocker, isn't it? But this is the fight that we have to fight, guys. It's not an easy one. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this, a lot of thankless situations that we must fight forward on. And yes, it's tiring. And yes, it's exhausting. And yes, we feel hopeless in many cases. Just as David Hunter says, Marjorie may be right on Israel-Palestine, but if you have Palantir in your stock portfolio, you are aiding and abetting the genocide anyway. Because that, as much as any major corporation in this country, is helping facilitate it. Be more like Thomas Massie. Just don't trade. That's the way to go. So if you are so inclined, once again, make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you share the stream. Kenman has to do it. Kenman had to do it. Talk about keeping your standards low. Debbie, unfortunately, did not show up in our chat this evening, so I'll take your comment as a pretty good send-off. But as I said, make sure that you, once again, hit the like button, share and subscribe, and do all those things that we ask you to do, because we do appreciate you all, and we hope we'll see you on Monday. Free Palestine. Good night, guys.